Hi everyone, my name is Phil and welcome to Phil Does 3D. I'm a multimedia and 3D artist and I stream on Twitch weekdays from 5 PM Pacific time in the United States, 10 AM in Australia and 1 AM in the UK. Hope all you guys are well and you had a great weekend. Hi to Mana, thanks for popping into chat and saying hello and showing the love. Okay. We are working on an Art Deco building in the Unreal Engine 4.16.2. Epic Games released a hotfix this morning or last night to 0.3. I haven't updated to that yet because I only noticed it this morning when I loaded up Unreal. I'll do it after the stream and just before I do my rebuild on my lighting. We are working on this Art Deco building. This is in Max. We're bringing this into Unreal. We've brought it into Unreal. We created an environment for our building, which I'm just going to play the video for very quickly now. Again, it's just easier for me to play this video. These are only still shots of the environment. The environment is fully animated, wind animated, all the trees and plants all move in the wind and all that sort of good stuff, but you don't see that in this video. We'll leave that for our final cinematic that we're creating at the end of our project. Remember guys, if you've got any questions or anything you're not sure about, please feel free to pop into chat and ask me. If I can help, I'm happy to try. If you just want to pop in and say hello, that's always welcome. If you just want to watch, then that's completely fine as well. Just going to have a quick drink, guys. Okay. So this is our environment. It's finished, but what we're going to do is once we're finished working on the interior of the building, which is what we're doing at the moment, we're just going to do a final pass over the exterior before we start creating our cinematic, just to make sure everything looks okay. Any areas that might need prettying up or fixing up or maybe changing a little bit, we'll look at then. Our project's nearly done. Like I said, we're about halfway through the interior of the building. Once we've done the interior, we will, like I said, do a quick pass over the exterior to make sure everything looks right. And then we will start setting up our cameras for our cinematic. Now the cinematic I'm going to be creating in, I'm going to set the cameras up and do the renderings from Unreal, but then I'm going to take those separate rendered pieces from Unreal into Adobe Premiere to do the final cinematic. So this is our building inside of UE4. Again, we've got physics objects like these hanging lights will sway slightly in the breeze. If I turn physics on here and keep an eye on OBS because it really hates real time in Unreal. It's very subtle, just a subtle movement on the lights. You probably notice it better on the shadows here moving on the wall because it's a movable light inside of the light fitting throwing the shadow. So it just helps to add a bit of life inside of the building. We are going to be placing plants and furniture, bits and pieces of furniture in the building as well. But we'll do that at the end once we've finished creating the interior. So we've almost done the entryway here. I do want to bring in some mosaic tiles for underneath of the doorways here. The other thing you probably noticed, guys, too, is my stream will be looking a lot lighter. I noticed when I was doing my streams that intro background is supposed to be a dark grey and it was looking black on stream on Twitch. So I made an adjustment in OBS and now I'm looking at my preview here and everything should be the right colour, shouldn't be too dark. So we've got our entryway here and at the end of the stream last week we were working on this room here. So we're going to finish doing some work on this one, this central room, I think. We have done the entryway here. I do need to do a rebuild on the lighting. And we still need to work out what we're going to do with this bay window here. It's not finished yet. I haven't got any assets in there yet. We'll look at that soon, as well as the mosaic tiles down on the ground and the entryway. But I think we'll continue on doing a bit more work on this interior room at the moment. And I think what we need to do is finish doing the plaster work. There's another piece of plaster that needs to go on the wall on this side and on the other side over there. So we'll do that. Apart from that, I think most of the plaster here is done, or maybe apart from the top of the door there. But let's get this plaster work in. Let's take I'm just going to scale this, actually move it a little bit. I just wanted to make sure that that decorative piece is actually in the middle of the wall. So yeah, I want to make sure that decoration is in the center of between this column and this door frame. That should be good. Let's duplicate it though so we can use it down the other end of the room. Give it a rotation of 90 degrees. Back. Not too bad. And I'm going to move it. Yeah, I'm just going to scale it in a tiny bit more. Again, I've just got to be careful I don't scale it too much or that pattern is going to start looking really odd. I just want to bring in the frame and the edge there. Okay, let's duplicate it one more time for the other side. Hey Kanu, how are you? How's that work going on the room that you were creating? Yeah, hopefully you can understand the way I was explaining it on Saturday night when you were in the chat, when I was doing the podcast. It's just difficult. It's always easier for me to explain those things when I'm live on stream because I can show you an example of what I mean while I'm live. But anyway, hopefully you got it sorted out. All right, let's I want to grab one of those short pieces of plasterwork for above the doorway. You going well? That's good to hear. The image that you were showing me of the room that you were creating was looking very nice. I was going to actually pull it from the other room, but I think it might be easier for me to grab it from the content browser here. That piece of plasterwork that I want. No problem. I was happy to help. Like I said, guys, if I stream on Twitch to encourage you guys to do 3D and to help you as much as I can. I mean, I've been in 3D for more than 10 years and I work in ArchViz now, but I've worked in games and film in the past. While I don't know everything, if there's anything I can help you guys with, I'm always happy to try. So please don't ever feel that you can't ask me for help, because that's why I'm here. I'm not here just to work on my own stuff. I'm here to actually encourage you to do 3D and help you in it if I can. So it was my pleasure, dude. Now where is that little bit of plaster? Actually, I think it's this one up the top here. That's right. Is it that one? Might be that one. I'm just going to check to make sure I don't have... I know I've got 3 pieces of plaster of different sizes that we can use. Yeah, no, I think it was that piece. And what we're doing with this is, because I don't want to bring in another piece of geometry just for a piece of plaster work, I'm using this one piece around for all the little sections of the building that just have a small piece of plaster required. Now, I'm just going to scale this around the right way. Now you'll notice that this plaster is way too big for the small piece we need above the door, but we can fix that easily by hiding part of it in the ceiling. So I'm just going to get it into position. Not too far. It's a really great idea too to be using Unreal for if you're a student or you want to get into 3D for a studio. Using the Unreal Engine is a really good thing to be including in your portfolio, particularly if you want to get into games development. Now, the Unreal Engine's being used a lot more than just games now, but creating something in Unreal for your portfolio is always a great thing to be doing. Simply because you'll be showing an employer that if you're working in games, you know the technology of how to create something, and you actually put something together that they can look at. The Unreal Engine is completely free to use, download and use. You only have to pay if you are creating something commercially that you want to sell. So if you're a student, you download the program for free, you create your level. It doesn't have to be a game level, it can be anything in Unreal. And put that in your portfolio, and anything interactive that a future employer can actually look at is always going to be help you a lot. But I'm not saying you need to. I'm saying if you do, you stand a better chance of standing out from the crowd when they're looking at everybody's portfolio. All right, so this panel piece, as you can see, is way too big, and I don't want to scale it down like this because I'm going to start squashing my texture a bit too much. I can squash it down a little, but not too much. Kanu's asking, Kanu, any tips you can give for environment creation in the Unreal Engine, or just in general in 3D? What exactly do you mean? Now, well, I just want to explain this before I get into the environment stuff. I'm hiding part of the mesh in the ceiling and in that piece above the door. So I don't have to scale it down. I can still use the same large piece, but just hide it in the inside of the building itself. Because the player or the camera is never going to see it. Okay, so in 3D, in general in 3D. Well, if you're just creating an environment in 3D Studio Max or Maya or Blender that you're going to render, you don't really have too many worries about polygon counts or texture sizes or texture reuse and all that type of thing, within reason. I mean, you've still got a certain amount of memory on your computer, but it's a lot less important than it is in a game level. What tips can I give you? If you're doing rendering in a 3D program and you want to create a really nice looking environment, as far as software goes, I use Eon View because that's all they do is environment. It's an environment rendering program to render out my plants and that type of thing. I don't generally do it in Max unless it's just a building for ArchViz with a very simple environment. As far as making the trees goes, I use SpeedTree, but Eon View also make a program called Plant Factory. You can download a PLE, Personal Learning Edition of Eon View for free and use it, try it out, see if you like it. I think the same for Plant Factory. They have a Personal Learning Edition of that software as well. As far as tips for environments, oh, in Max and then bringing it into Unreal. Okay. Reuse your assets as much as possible inside of Unreal is one tip, because let's just jump out to my environment outside and have a look there. Now I am using SpeedTree for the environment here. I'll just turn on simulation and keep an eye on OBS because, like I said, it really hates real time in Unreal for some reason. It drops FPS. My lighting needs to be rebuilt as well. I'm using SpeedTree for my plants simply because I wanted everything animated and moving in the wind. And that includes the grass and all the rest of it. Like I was saying, you don't need to use SpeedTree. You can do fake movement in a material inside of Unreal. So if you don't want to spend $19 for a subscription every month to rent SpeedTree, you can do it in a material and fake it that way, movement on a plant that way. As far as environments in Unreal go, if you're not using SpeedTree, which was built for environments, you've got to be careful, particularly if you're making things like grass inside of Max or Blender or whatever 3D program that you want to bring into Unreal, that you don't go super heavy high poly, because you see how many grass blades I'm using here, or how many patches of grass. It's a lot. So if you go too high poly, you're really going to make the engine crawl. You can get away with a slightly higher poly in SpeedTree because it was made for plants. If I look at my actual foliage here and show you the grass that I'm using, let's have a look at this one. You can sort of get an idea of what I mean. And now these these are just planes that are intersecting each other. They're not they're not physical mesh geometry. So it's like two planes and an X with an alpha map on them. It is all SpeedTree, yes. Everything you see in my level here is SpeedTree. Every plant is SpeedTree. Now, when I come to do the interior of the building and start putting plants inside, there's going to be a couple of SpeedTree plants because they move, but I'm also bringing in some static plants that I created in Max. I haven't actually brought them in yet because I'll do that once we're finished setting up the inside of the building. And they won't probably be moving. If I do want any movement on them, I'll set it up in a material and do it that way. Simply because it was quicker for me to do it that way than recreate the plant in SpeedTree. It's possible to do it in SpeedTree. I'm just being a bit lazy and just bringing in a static plant. But I'm sort of mixing it with a couple of SpeedTree moving plants inside the building, so it'll balance itself out. But no, everything you see in my level here is actually SpeedTree though. So I'm supposed to turn off simulation so that OBS doesn't freak out while I move around a bit. Yeah, no, all SpeedTree, every plant, all the grass, all the trees, all the flowers is SpeedTree. And that's simply because, like I said, I wanted to make sure that everything was moving in the wind when we do our cinematic. Because a game level or a cinematic, if things don't move, they tend to look very sterile and fake. Now, in games, it can be a lot more difficult because if you get too much movement, you're going to start really slowing your game engine down quite a lot. But the advantage of using SpeedTree is because it was made for games work. You can use it in cinema work as well, don't get me wrong. But because it was mainly made for games, they really optimized their plants. So the movement, while it will give you a bit of a performance hit, anything will that moves, it's not as bad as you trying to animate a plant, say using animation using FBX and importing an animated plant that way that you've animated in Blender or Max or whatever. That's going to give you much more performance hit than using a SpeedTree tree and using the wind animation built into SpeedTree and Unreal. And that's the reason they created it, was to make it as light on resources as possible and still make it as realistic as possible. And the advantage of having movement in a game level or a video level or whatever you're making is just, yeah, to make the world look more real and less sterile. I know there was a big argument years ago when NVIDIA released PhysX, because a lot of people who played games said, well, you know, I prefer to have good gameplay over PhysX. And that's true, good gameplay is going to trump everything, but having PhysX in a level can really help to sell the believability of destruction and cloth and all that sort of stuff. People underappreciate just how important and how beneficial having physics in a game is. Any sort of physics, not just physics, any physics, because it really helps to bring the game to life. But yes, all my plants are SpeedTree plants. You can animate your plants in Max Canoe as you're using Max or Blender or whatever it is you're doing, and bring it in as an animated FBX file. But you really got to be careful as to how much you use it, because it's really going to start to slow the engine right down. So if you guys can swing, you use Max. Yeah, I thought you used Max Canoe. If you guys can swing $19 a month, and just while you're making your plants to subscribe to SpeedTree for UE4, you've only got to subscribe for as long as it takes you to make your trees. Once you've exported them, then you don't have to keep your subscription up. You can still keep using them in Unreal. You've only got to get the subscription while you make them. Once you've made them, they're yours, and you can use them in Unreal as often as you want. You don't have to keep subscribing. So if it takes you a month or two to make your plants, you subscribe at $19 a month for 1 or 2 months, and then you drop your subscription and start making your level. Sorry, so Kenny was asking, is it easy to get through SpeedTree? Is it easy to get through SpeedTree or other workflow? Any new piece of software is going to have a learning curve, particularly when it comes to making plants. Now, Eon View's version of SpeedTree, which is the plant factory, is the same. It has its own unique interface and workflow. It can be a bit intimidating at first because the programs are very powerful. But so long as you take your time, and they have example trees that you can download from SpeedTree to use in their program, sort of look at the way that they create their trees, then you can get a pretty decent idea of how to do it. And once you're familiar with it, then no, it's not difficult. The workflow's pretty easy. And as far as actually using the tree, it's super easy. You make your tree in SpeedTree, you save it out as a UE4 tree file. I can't remember exactly what they call their trees. Their format for their trees. It's like SRT or something like that. Don't quote me on that. And then you just import it like you do a normal mesh into Unreal. You add a wind actor inside the level, and everything else takes care of itself. It all animates all by itself. Let me just turn on wind here again so we can get some movement, and I'll keep an eye on OBS. So yeah, no, you make your tree in SpeedTree, which is not difficult once you understand how their interface works. You save it out as a file that you can just directly import into Unreal like you do any other mesh. Place the tree in your level, add this wind actor inside the level, which is just like the skylight, just an actor you place in the level. And the rest of it is all automatic. It does it on its own. Super easy. You can adjust your, if you know how much you want your trees to sway and things, either inside of the SpeedTree when you're making the tree, or inside of Unreal. Ken is asking, any tips on Art Deco? You had an Art Deco environment assignment and could not figure it out. You couldn't find any good reference for it? You don't know what to look for in Art Deco. Okay. Art Deco, which was the 1920s, 1930s, is all about geometric design. So it's not generally... I'm cheating a bit with my Art Deco interior. I'm adding a lot more detail and swirls than Deco traditionally is. Traditionally, Deco is very geometric. Let me just stop that simulation. This terrace here is probably a good idea. So I'm just using very simple, smooth, curved edges here for the banisters. Simple textures, geometric design of my textures for the Deco terrace itself. Yeah, traditionally Deco is very simple. I'm going a little bit more decorative than Deco really should be in this level, just because I like a bit more decoration. I'm curious as to why you couldn't find any good reference for Deco, because if you go to Google and do an image search, you'll get heaps of images for Deco. If you're ever creating a project, always make sure you use Google. Hey Johan, good to see you. When you think Art Deco in games, you think Bioshock. Yeah, Bioshock's a great example because that was Art Deco. I was reading an article of the guys that made Bioshock, and he actually went, there's a district I think in New York which is all Deco, and they made a trip there to actually take photographs of the buildings and the interiors of these Art Deco buildings in this borough, or whatever they call them in New York, of this Deco section of New York. But if you're doing a project, use Google. Google's a great resource. Just go to images up here and type Art Deco. You can also type Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau came, I always get these confused. I think Nouveau came, it was either before or after. I think it may have come after Deco, and Nouveau is a little bit more swirly, a bit more decoration, not as geometric as Deco, but Yeah, if you type Art Deco in Google image search, you're going to get heaps of examples of Deco buildings, Deco chairs, Deco textures, you know, heaps of inspiration here. And I do this for anything that I'm working on, regardless of what it is. If it's a specific project that I want to get some inspiration from, then I always come to Google image search and do an image search on whatever it is that I'm working on. So I'm just trying to make sure I answered Kanu's question properly. Yeah, so if you're doing an assignment, for a Deco assignment, you want inspiration or you're not sure what Art Deco means or what it is, do an image search on Google and you will come up with hundreds of examples of Deco. And like I said, so you have to be careful if you use any of these images that they're not copyrighted, but you can certainly get inspiration from them. No problem, yeah. But do make use of Google image search. Johan says Prey is a more recent example in games, although I think they called that Neo Deco. I've never heard of Neo Deco. I've heard of Art Deco and Art Nouveau. Maybe they decided to call it Neo Deco, and I haven't actually played Prey. Did I watch a playthrough or Let's Play of Prey? I think I may have. Yeah, I did. You're right. Theirs is more like an industrial deco, yeah, in Prey. So yes, and again, like I said, my interior here, while I'm taking deco inspiration, I'm making it a bit more, a little bit more ornate than traditional deco. Simply because it interests me more and I'm not working for a client, so I can do what I want basically, which is always nice. Particularly if you're working for a studio where they tell you what you're going to be working on and you have no choice. Having the option to work on what interests you is always fun. And again, like I said, guys, you'll probably notice my stream is looking a lot lighter than it normally does, and that's simply because I've made an adjustment to ABS, so it's not as dark on Twitch as it was, because it was wrong. It was my stream was coming out way too dark in Twitch, but it's fixed now. So just pointing that out in case you're watching and you're thinking, gee, the stream looks a bit lighter than normal. This is the way it's supposed to look. It was looking too dark when I was originally streaming. I'm just going to duplicate this piece of plaster again and move it over to the other side. Okay, now what I want to do here for this room is I really want to work on the ceiling. I think I need plaster over here as well. Jeez, it's everywhere. Plaster everywhere. Alright, let's duplicate it and bring it back over to the other side. Johan says the Prey had cool art design. It's like 1960s, 70s sci-fi combined with modern things. Yeah, I agree. It did have cool design. Like I said, I didn't play or buy Prey, but I did watch a Let's Play of somebody playing the game, so it did look very cool. I don't know, the gameplay looked a bit repetitive after a while though, so it was always doing the same thing, which is the reason I didn't actually end up buying it and playing it. I was just curious. I don't have a lot of time either to play games, unfortunately. So if I can watch somebody else play one, it's always better for me sometimes. Hang on, no, oh yeah, here we are. Yeah, do look into Bioshock though, particularly for Deco, because it was actually designed for Deco. They made that decision when they made the game that they were going to do a Deco environment, and the period I think that the game is supposed to be set in is that Deco period. So for Art Deco, it's probably the best example. Well, that's very true. Bioshock can get a bit repetitive on its gameplay as well. I'm not knocking Prey. I mean, I know a lot of guys liked it, and I liked the look of it, and the gameplay looked fun. Just a bit repetitive, that was all. The creatures certainly look cool. The effect that they gave to the creatures was very cool. Okay, let's do one more duplicate for the other side of the door. Now again, this is not this room here is going to look a little odd just until I do a rebuild on the lighting, because what I've done here is I've placed a reflection zone, and that tends to darken up any area that is in until a rebuild is done. Johan says that both have you trapped in a station of some sort fighting monsters when you have special abilities. Yeah, that's right. Although Bioshock was cool because you're underwater, so that water element always looked really cool when they used it. Kenny's saying also, Phil, I was doing a door with a glass. I was doing a door with a glass. Yeah, are you asking me something, Kenu? I don't get from that. What, are you asking a question or just making a statement? A door with a glass. Are you sure? Are you saying like a glass panel inside your door? Oh, and when you put transparent shader, yeah. Was there a problem? It messes the whole geometry? Okay. Let's have a look at my door. Okay, let's have a look at this door here. This is a good example. Now, this door is using an actual transparent here for the glass on the sides, but not for the glass in the middle. So if I go to my my assets here and look at the door, where are we? I'll show you how you should probably do it, because you can't have transparency. You can so long as you use an alpha mask for the glass part. I tend not to do it that way simply because if I was making this game into a game, which I'm not, I'm doing a cinematic, but it could easily be a game, and I wanted to shoot this glass and have it smash, if I have that as one mesh, like if I attach that glass part to the actual door, it's going to be really difficult for me to break that up using physics. Like it'll break up, but it'll break part of the door. So if I shot the glass, chances are a chunk of the door frame will come out, which doesn't look realistic. So the best way to do things that are going to be breakable is to do them as a separate object. And I just got into the habit of doing that, so that's the way I do my glass. If I show you the actual mesh though, if I can find it, okay. This door here is made up of 3 separate meshes. We have the door frame, okay, which just uses a standard material. We have the door in the middle itself, again, just uses a standard material. No transparency on that glass. It's actually attached to the door. And then I have the actual glass itself, which sits inside of the frame, which does have transparency here. You can sort of see it just through the window there. Yours is a single mesh using a different material ID. Okay. So what's the problem you're having though with the shape, with the transparency? I don't understand how it's messing up your geometry. Yeah, I don't understand why it would be messing it up. If you're using a different material ID, then you're using a separate material just for the glass, for the transparency. You can't post a link in chat, in Twitch chat, because you have to be a sub to do that. But you're a member of the Phil Does 3D server. You can post a link in that chat, and I can check it out there if you want. But yeah, you can't post links in general Twitch chat unless you're a sub. I'm sorry about that, guys. That's why I created the Phil Does 3D server. So any of you guys watching that do want to post links and and don't want to sub, which is fair enough, go install the if you install the Twitch desktop app and go to that link I just popped into chat, you can join the Phil Does 3D server, and in general chat there you can certainly post links and images or anything you're working on. Or like I said, yeah, you got to be a sub though to post in Twitch chat, or a regular from prior to me getting a sub button. But certainly that's why I created the Twitch, the Bill Does 3D server on the Twitch desktop app, so you guys could post links there. I'm just trying to work out any problem, why you're having a problem with your transparency, that's all, Canu. If I look at my material, this is the material I think I'm using for the glass. I'm just using a translucent material with an opacity value from a constant. Basically what I'm doing is I'm reusing the same material I'm using for the frame and for the door, just to save on some memory. Okay, let's have a look. I'm just popping into general chat here, alright. Just let me grab this link really quickly and have a look for you, Canu. Close you down. Well, let's have a look. So what's the problem you're having here? You've circled this part here. What's the problem you're having, Canu? You're saying when you put a translucent shader on it, it messes up the whole geometry. I'm just trying to gauge what problem you're having here. Okay, no worries. While Canu's doing that, let's just jump back into my level and we'll continue on. So yeah, I'll check it in just a minute when he's posted the second link. Because the translucent shader really should not be causing a problem for you. For your geometry anyway. A material shader, unless you're actually applying it to a non-transparent part of the door, shouldn't cause a problem. But yeah, getting back to this, I really do want to start, I want to do some work on the roof here. I want to get the roof done. And then we can do the floor, and then we can move on to other bits and pieces in the room. So what I've done here with the, what I'm planning to do with the ceiling, if we jump into max, and we look over here where I've actually just laid out a demo, I'm using, I created this ceiling panel piece. Now it's a relatively low poly. It is pretty low poly. And I want to use this inside of for the roof of the building, and I'm going to be doing it like I've laid it out here. So I'm going to be reusing the asset, which allows us to save on our poly count and our memory, texture memory, quite a lot to do the ceiling. Then I've just got one separate panel which is going to go in the middle above the stairwell. So let's bring those in and start placing them. I've already got them over here, so let's export them and import them. I think I may have to do the normal mapping for them, but we'll export them first. Yeah, so when you post the second image, Canu, in the other chat, just let me know and I'll check it out. So let's export this square panel piece to begin with. Main deco ceiling, that's the one I want. Main ceiling square. I'm going to export this long piece, which is going to go above the stairwell. I'm only using it once. We may be able to use it again somewhere else inside the level. And I'm also going to export a small piece, which is just this little dome here. And that's just going to be to fix up any errors inside the ceiling of our tiling in case something doesn't completely line up. a good way to fix that problem is to hide it, and the easiest way to hide it will be with this little circle piece here. You'll see what I mean when I start putting it together inside the building. Again, it's very low poly. You're not going to be using a lot of polygons by having that piece of mesh there.